American intelligence community, specifically the Central Intelligence Agency, has been lying and committing various crimes throughout the past decades of assassinations, drug smuggling, kidnappings, murders. These people cannot be allowed to be in charge of our relationship with the extraterrestrial civilization. What steps are we going to take to try to lead our planet together to form a major treaty among our nation states so that we can work together in a coordinated manner to establish peaceful and productive, mutually beneficial relations with all of the different star systems that are part of the extraterrestrial civilization?
My name is Danny Sheehan. I'm a constitutional litigator who's worked some of the most important cases in modern American history. From Pentagon Papers, the Watergate scandal, to Iran-Contra. My legal career has led me now to this pivotal moment. As our human family confronts the implications of the existence here on our planet of extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional non-human species. I will be your guide as we dive into the profound philosophical, theological, and public policy questions pertaining to the UFO phenomenon, alien life, and the citizen movement for disclosure. This is the Full Disclosure Podcast, coming to you from the New Paradigm Institute on SpectraVision Radio.
This is the beginning of the 7th full week of the official shutdown of our United States government. There has been a decision made by 8 of the 47 United States senators of the Democratic Party. They are going to vote to reopen the government now. They voted to do this now. The question is on its way to the House of Representatives to determine whether or not a majority of their people will vote to reopen the government. That has continued to be one of the main stories of this week, along with the cutting off of the food supplies to the people under the Supplemental Nutrition Bill. This has been a subject now of the proposed compromise between the Republican and Democratic Party to reinstate the payments for these special food supplements for our people as a condition for reopening the government. Elections here in 2025 of 2 of the major governorships in the state of Virginia and in New Jersey were taken by Democrats. And of course, one of the big stories is the winning of the New York mayoral election by a publicly acknowledged Democratic socialist. President Trump has now agreed to slow down the transit of the U.S. aircraft carrier battle group that he had ordered into the waters off Venezuela. That has now been slowed to the point where they now still are only closer to the North African shore, but they have still been reassigned to the Caribbean U.S. military. And they still have on board the 2,000 United States Marines that are specially trained for land invasions. But that seems to be on hold now in light of the pushback against that. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has in fact now ceased his bombings of the Gaza area and his attacks into the West Bank and other places in response to his assertion that Hamas were not comporting with the peace negotiations. So that's a good piece of news. But on the other hand, Russian President Vladimir Putin is still raining down missiles and drone attacks into the Ukraine. President Trump remains basically silent in the face of this, though he had previously threatened to send Tomahawk missiles to the Ukrainian government if President Putin did not cease his military assault on the country. But that has not transpired to this point. The 3-eye atlas comet that has entered our solar system has now come out from behind the sun and appears to have divided and broken into some 16 separate pieces and is on its way out of our solar system into interstellar space. But this has not stopped a number of people continuing to speculate rather wildly, and in some cases irresponsibly, about this being some sort of extraterrestrial craft from an intelligent civilization, even to the point of having a number of rogue AI perpetrators be crafting completely false narratives of the information having been now obtained that the 3I Atlas has been sending out communications to direct a major invasion of our country and our planet. These are totally irresponsible, and they've been a major news item during the course of the week under the rubric of the UFO issue. Now, all of that is getting set to die down as the comet leaves the solar system. The country and the world is preparing for the public release of the new 2-hour documentary film, The Age of Disclosure, by Dan Farah and Lou Elizondo. This is a much awaited event, and as you know, our New Paradigm Institute has now been working to develop over some 100 sites across the country where there are going to be public viewings of this premiere on the night of November 21st. This is going to be an extraordinarily important event, and we again recommend that all of you get in touch with the New Paradigm Institute and find out where the nearest public showing of this new documentary film is going to be taking place. And if, in fact, there is not one in your immediate area, that you can become one of the people who help organize such a public showing. Just contact us at newparadigminstitute.org and participate in this extraordinary set of events. There are some 34 above top secret U.S. government officials interviewed in this documentary film, making extraordinarily important statements about their knowledge of the existence of an extraterrestrial, non-human civilization, and the fact that the members of this civilization have been visiting our planet, and that the UFO phenomenon is real, that we have captured one or more of the UFO craft, and that there's an ultra-secret program going on of attempting to back-engineer the technology recovered from these UFOs. Preceding this by one day, on November 20th, coming up this month, Fox News is going to be having a special program in which Colonel Carl Nell, one of the major members of the UAP task force set up by the United States Pentagon, along with Jay Stratton, who was also another member of this UAP task force, are going to be appearing in a special interview along with U.S. Navy Admiral Tim Gallaudet. The three of them are going to be responding to the information that's going to be coming out the following night in the premiere of this major documentary film. This is something that everyone should tune into on Fox News on the evening of November 20th. James Lukaski's earlier Part 1 interview by George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell has continued to reverberate throughout the country. Lukaski has been instructed by his superiors in the executive branch to decline to provide information to the Congress of the United States about the ET program that he is aware of, efforts to bring down UFOs and capture them and reverse engineer them. And he's gone on some length to point out that he has been authorized by the executive branch to begin to leak out specific pieces of information in a sort of a drip and drab process through a series of books that he's publishing. He has just published the fourth in a series of these books, revealing more information, and yet he maintains that he is still going to refuse to provide any additional information even to Congress, even if they were to subpoena him. I want to address here these extraordinary assertions being made on the part of James Lukatsky that he is going to refuse to provide information which he acknowledges he possesses to the Congress of the United States, even if he were subpoenaed, because he has been instructed by his superiors inside the executive branch to refuse to provide this information to Congress. And now, this is the same thing that we've encountered with others. For example, Jay Stratton, who was also a member of the Advanced Aerospace Weapons Special Application Program, or AUSAP. He and Lukatsky both maintained that they have been instructed by their superiors in the executive branch to refuse to provide information to Congress, even if they were subpoenaed and brought before Congress and commanded to give this information over. And importantly, the United States Congress has not yet taken the position of subpoenaing any of these people, even though they're fully informed that these people have possession of information that is of extraordinary importance to Congress. And so there's this bizarre dance going on now between the high-level officials in the executive department, Special Operations Division specifically, who are instructing these executive branch subordinates to refuse to provide this information to Congress, and the Congress itself still declining to take the aggressive position of commanding them to come before Congress and provide this information, even behind closed doors. They will not provide the information to Congress. What are the constitutional implications of this? To have the Congress of the United States, which is expressly authorized and empowered in Article 1 of our United States Constitution to make the rules and regulations governing our United States military, and also governing the authority of our United States Congress to determine what the rules and regulations are going to be with regard to providing technology to individual aerospace corporations and whatever patents they're going to be authorized to have. All of this has been usurped by the executive branch. We are also clear that in Article 1, the United States Constitution explicitly delegates to Congress the authority to make rules with regard to the capturing of any type of foreign craft on land or sea. And those rules and regulations are specifically authorized by the Congress of the United States to govern. And yet, these powers are being usurped by the executive branch. This is a major constitutional crisis that is not yet being addressed by the Congress of the United States. They are playing patty cake with the executive branch, and the executive branch is playing patty cake with them. And the reason for this is because the members of Congress are intimidated by the executive branch, because they know perfectly well that the counterintelligence program that has been adopted by the United States executive branch through our United States Defense Department and our intelligence communities have undertaken active measures to intimidate and prohibit this information from going to members of Congress. There are congressional staffs who have now revealed that they have been threatened individually with violence if they continue to press for this information. One of the major objectives of the New Paradigm Institute is to try to motivate members of Congress to undertake specific legislation setting forth and asserting their powers under Article 1 to command the attention of the American public and to assert their control over this issue of our relationship with the UFOs and with the extraterrestrial non-human civilization that are represented by the UFO phenomenon. I was one of the two co-founders of the Harvard Civil Rights Law Review back in 1968 and have spent my entire legal career dealing with constitutional issues. This is very similar to the experience that we encountered back during the Pentagon Papers case, where the United States executive branch just flat out asserted that it had the right to conceal information about the Vietnam War from Congress. When anybody got their hands on some of this classified information, and the New York Times was preparing to publish it to show the lies that were being told by the United States Defense Department and Central Intelligence Agency, the executive branch, then under Richard Nixon, moved into the federal courts to try to get an injunction to prohibit the New York Times from informing the Congress and the American public about the lies that were being told by the executive branch. This confrontation back in 1971 resulted ultimately in the resignation of Richard Nixon. It was the publishing of the Pentagon Papers that caused Richard Nixon to set up the plumbers unit to break into the office of the psychiatrist of Daniel Ellsberg, who was the source of these release of these documents to the New York Times. We have seen and have personal experience with this type of confrontation between the executive branch and the other branches of our government. So we are telling you here in this full disclosure podcast that we are taking steps to try to get Congress to assert its power under Article 1 to seize control over this policy of the UFO ET issue. And we are working to try to develop legislation right now to provide it to Congress to introduce into the House of Representatives and to the United States Senate, asserting the right of Congress to take over making the rules governing our relationship with the UFO phenomenon and the ET civilization that are responsible for them. Direct your attention to the New Paradigm Institute website to follow this major confrontation and to familiarize yourself with the legislation that we are preparing now. The new revelations are going to be coming out here on November 21st and possibly on November 20th as well, in the process that the executive branch is determined that it is going to follow in releasing any information to Congress. We are going to try to accelerate that through the New Paradigm Institute. Sign up to become members of the Citizens for Disclosure. We now have groups in 33 of the states, of our 50 states, that are working as Citizens for Disclosure. And once we get all 50 states represented in Citizens for Disclosure, those groups in those 50 states are going to be moving to set up additional Citizens for Disclosure groups in all 435 of our congressional districts. This has to be a major campaign that is being waged by the citizenry of our country to get our United States Congress to stand up and to assert its constitutional authority to take control over this all-important subject. We cannot leave to the American intelligence community, specifically the Central Intelligence Agency, that has been lying and committing various crimes throughout the past decades of assassinations, drug smuggling, kidnappings, murders. These people cannot be allowed to be in charge of our relationship with the extraterrestrial civilization. Congress has to step forward. And if, in fact, the people who are in the House and Senate at the present time refuse to live up to their constitutional responsibilities, they will have to be replaced by new representatives. And we need to have the American citizenry rise up, organize, and demand that the present members comply with their constitutional responsibilities. People in 100 years from now are going to look back at this particular time period over the next 2 years are going to say, what did you do as citizens to insist that Congress exercise its constitutional authority to take charge of the policies that our government is going to be engaged in with regard to the extraterrestrial civilization? And what steps are we going to take to try to lead our planet together to form a major treaty among our nation states so that we can work together in a coordinated manner to establish peaceful and productive, mutually beneficial relations with all of the different star systems that are part of the extraterrestrial civilization. This is the New Paradigm Institute coming to you from SpectraVision Radio. Thank you very much.
To join the citizen movement for disclosure, visit newparadigminstitute.org/take action.